Good morning, everyone. It is so good to see you. We are so happy that you are joining us today. It seems like it's been so long that I've spoken to you all, but I again want to say good morning and thank you all for joining us. Thank you for joining the Autopsy of Her, Healing, Evolving Resiliency. I am Iris D. Owens, and on the line with me is my beautiful sister and co-host.
Stephanie Deani Green. Good morning, honey bunny.
Good morning, honey bunny. How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's so
Good.
wonderful to see a beautiful face, and I love your background. That is gorgeous.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
That's where we
Listen,
need to be. We need to be
eh,
recording from
what,
there.
and we were just talking about that. So just so you all know, there is a trip coming up where we are going to be recording live from wherever that spot is. We will be
Yes,
recording live
exactly.
on location. I want to say that we're recording live on location.
Exactly.
That's gonna be awesome.
That is definitely going to be awesome.
That's gonna be awesome. I can't wait for us to do that. So in any event, today we're going to talk about really something. I mean, everyone, if you've joined us before, you know that our show, our podcast is really about it's about all the many facets of womanhood. Why? Because we're both women, and if we know nothing else, we know how to be women, right?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
and there
Exactly.
are times in our lives that we have been we will always be women. We are women, but there are times that we kind of go, what am I going to do with this? Because I'm not sure what to do with it. And so today we're going to kind of talk about trauma. And we've talked about trauma before because trauma is has so many layers to it. And one of the reasons why we're going to start talking about trauma is because, as you all know, so Saturday is 9/11. It'll be September 11th, 2021, which is it'll be the 20-year anniversary of 9/11, 2001, where we all know that we were attacked by terrorists and the towers went down, government buildings were hit. I mean, we were under attack. But it's also interesting that on that day, there were 13,238 children, babies born on 9/11 around the world. And so they will turn 20 years old on Saturday.
Mhm.
And so we're gonna go from the perspective of being born into trauma, right?
Yeah.
Born
Mhm.
into trauma, and then how do you navigate through that? Um, because people will say, there have been some of us who were told you were a mistake. Oh my God. I think that's one of the worst things you could ever say to a person
Absolutely.
that has life and came into this world. You were a mistake.
Mhm.
I didn't really want you. Uh, okay, wow, that's hurtful. Um, but to be born in or born on a day when the world was in complete turmoil and chaos. I mean, New York City, whereas both our homes, it I can remember, I'm going to say to each of you, do you remember where you were? Do you remember what you were doing that day? I know I had just started a new job in hospitality, and the facility that I was working at was right near the airport. So our facility immediately turned into an emergency shelter for all these people who were in Atlanta for business meetings. They were in our facility for business meetings and for conferences and so forth. But guess what? Now these people had nowhere to go because they could not get on a plane. They couldn't go home. They couldn't rent a car. I mean, because literally it was like everything stopped. And I remember that at the time, my husband was in DC. And so now the phones were not working. There was no phone line. There was no communication. And I'm just at home in Atlanta thinking, okay, is he safe? Where is he? I have no idea. It was probably a day, if I remember correctly, before I actually heard from him. And then he was able to get to South Carolina, and that's where we had to pick him up from. Because again, there were no, there was no transportation, nothing. So that's how we got to him. Where were you, Steph? What do you?
I was home with my baby. Savannah was a baby at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and she was like 15 months.
Okay.
And I never forget that day because I was trying to have another baby.
Okay.
And I was so elated because you could not tell me that I wasn't pregnant.
Ah. Okay.
And then, and I woke up that morning, my brother actually woke me up. My brother who lives in Orlando, he's a detective. And he was like, I got to check on you. You okay? Because I used to work at the World Trade Center.
Ah.
And what's so ironic, the last time I had been down there, I was 8 months pregnant with Savannah.
Ah. Okay.
And let me tell you something. I did not really mess around with the World Trade Center since the first attempted attack. Because I can honestly tell you, I always felt in my spirit they were coming back.
Mm.
We just did not know when.
Right.
And I had no choice that day to go down there to pay my taxes. And I was 8 months pregnant. I was running through that place trying to get up out of there
Right.
because it just felt really, really uncomfortable.
Right.
And then, so this is like what September, so probably like in August, the beginning of August, probably the end of July, my husband had a really, really big case that he had just won.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided to go down to the South Street Seaport and have dinner. And I know when we were leaving that night, I was looking back at the towers thinking like, will I ever go back in there? And then like less than a month later, this happens.
Mm-hmm.
It was like so ironic because I always had this eerie feeling about it. I'm not going to
Right.
lie. And sure enough, my period came that day. Because I can tell you, to see this happen, I was stressed. It was
Yeah.
just devastating. It was
Right.
absolutely
Right.
devastating, you
Right.
know. And
Yeah.
knowing people that, have like a friend of mine's, his wife, they're married now, but she lost her first husband in 9/11.
Right.
Just meeting people that was
Right.
in that. And then I ended up getting pregnant on September 29th, and I was not able to go into the city. Well, I could have, but I knew better not to because it was just so much
Mm-hmm.
toxicity there, like in the
Yes.
air,
Right.
And I was like, I'm not taking me and my pregnant self over there. And I'm a city girl, I'm
Right.
always in the city. I did
Right.
not, and it took me. Oh my God, my kids were pretty big, like maybe like 2 and 4 or 3, and before I went even downtown to that region,
Right.
you know. And
Right.
then, but my son's in film school now, so one of the New York Film Academies, one of their schools is down in Battery Park. And
Okay.
then lo and behold, like Savion's is 19 now. When I think he started there when he was like 12 or 13, I ended up spending all my time down there and
Right.
watching it revitalize all over again. It was just like a
Right.
interesting, thing. And
Right.
then this summer, Savion worked down there the whole summer,
Right.
as a teacher's assistant. So
Right.
it's bittersweet. I can honestly tell you, it's like
Yeah.
we never really recovered from that. The city is just so.
Right.
It was just so different. The world, not just the city, the world.
Right.
You know.
Right. And for me, I was already living in Atlanta, but I went to Pace University. So I was
Mhm.
always at
Yep.
the South Street Seaport. I actually used to work for Goldman Sachs down on that end, so
Exactly where it
um,
is. Mhm.
right. So it's just like seeing that was so surreal. Like you were like this is not really happening, right? Like this has got to be not real, but it was so real. And like I said, working that day, and that was my that was my first day at work
Wow.
at this building. And it was, like I said, it was like all hands on deck and converting having to consider converting meeting rooms to possible sleeping rooms because there was no place, the hotels were being sold out. There was no place for people to go. And like I said, if you had all these people in the city for conferences and things like this, these people needed shelter until this thing was squared out and until we even understood what was happening. Mm-hmm. And then now it's interesting to me that here we are again in trauma.
Exactly.
I mean, this pandemic is, whether you think it's real, whether you don't think it's real. And for me, I don't know how you think it's not real.
Exactly.
Right? Because thinking it's not real or thinking it's a hoax is okay. Maybe a few people went to the hospital. Maybe a few people got sick. Maybe a few people, but there have been thousands of people who have died.
Yes.
Who have died and still dying. And we've been going through this for 18 months, right?
Sure.
And to add on top of that, all the people that we lost who didn't even die from COVID.
Exactly. Oh my God, so many deaths.
But it seems so much more impactful because it seems like for these last 18 months, we have been in a state of trauma. And we're in a state of emergency, and we don't even see the horizon. We don't see the rescue squad coming. We don't see the resolve. We don't see the white flag. It's just, it has been a lot. I say all the time, when someone says to me that someone's sick or someone's hurt or someone's, I always ask, what's the name of the person? Because if I say I'm going to pray for someone, I want to know the name of the person. I don't need to know the situation because I can't change the situation. I can't fix the situation, but I just want to be able to pray for someone. But when I pray for someone, I want to pray for a person and a name, not just praying willy-nilly because what are you helping? And I'm sure you probably do help if you just pray general, but I feel that God definitely answers all prayers, but I think he pays attention when you're more specific. That's just me. That's my relationship that I have with him. But it is interesting to me how we are all in a state of trauma, and it's interesting, like, how are we dealing with it? Like, how are you dealing with the trauma in your life? Because in all this that's going on, even if you haven't been affected by COVID, if you haven't had COVID, someone who has.
Oh, and even if you don't, I'm sure you definitely know somebody has, but you have definitely been affected, one way or the other. You know what I mean?
And this effect is an effect, and this is why it becomes trauma, because it has a long-term effect. It has an everlasting effect. And if you don't identify what it is creating, what trauma is creating for you, you're going to constantly be in a search mode of, I don't understand what's going on with me. I don't understand why I feel this way. I don't understand why I'm acting this way. And I know for me, this week has been a really heavy week. Like the end of last week into this week has been a really heavy week where, you're having moments of, for me, just crying. Like I'm praying, but I'm crying because it's just like, man, God, I can't do anything right here. But also that sense of discombobulation. I don't know about everybody else, but some days I feel like I leave my house and I'm losing things, but they're not lost. They're right there. And but I'm like, oh my God, I just left my phone on top. Like yesterday, that was my experience. I left my phone on top of the car. And my mom was in the car with me because I said to my mom, I said, hey, Mom, you want to hang out with me? Come on, come ride with me, in the life of a day of a realtor. And actually it was Yeah, it was yesterday. And so, or day before yesterday. And so she said, sure, come on, let's go. No, it was yesterday, Wednesday. So she said, sure, I'll hang out with you. And then I'm driving along and I'm like, because I was putting a lockbox on this house. And while I was programming it, I remember putting my phone on top of the car. And then I'm driving, looking for my phone, like, oh my God, the phone is on top of the car. And my mother's like, you need help. But you know what? She's absolutely right.
Oh,
Because
definitely. I
I'm
agree. We
I'm
all
finding
do.
myself losing stuff, misplacing
Mhm.
stuff, can't remember
Mhm.
where I put stuff, even though I've organized something. Remember, I've just moved, Steph has just moved, but I'm trying to organize stuff and put stuff away, right? And then you come back and
Mhm.
you're going, well, where is it now?
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Because
so,
I still can't find anything. I wanted to make a dress for the wedding, and I'm like, I can't even find my sewing machine. So I said, well, maybe I should just go buy another. Like, no, I got two there in the garage. Where they are, I don't know. But I'm like, where are my? I just can't find so many things. I just
right,
moved Savannah to her apartment. We had a TV stand, mommy. I could probably use that TV stand. Where is it? I know I brought it to the new place because I was gonna initially. I didn't want to put any TVs on the wall. So I was
right,
just gonna use it and I was gonna get a stand for my TV and use it, but
right,
the glass was too thin. The TV was too heavy to put on there. So I don't
right,
think I threw it away at this point. I just cannot get to it. But
right,
like I wanted to back up to what you were saying about the trauma and how it all has been affecting me, which is, I ended up, emergency one time and then ICU twice.
mm-hmm,
And it
right,
all is related to all of these things that is going on, amongst everything else. And just being there in ICU, both times incubated,
right,
it's not a good feeling, when everything else, and then they had to, well, I guess you're totally isolated. That's why it's ICU, but it was like they had to really, really work on me and to really, really get me out of there, and both times they had to save my life. So it's definitely took its toll on my body and on my mental health. And then on top of that, it's ongoing, not ongoing to the point that I'm back in an emergency room or an ICU, but I've been like, because I'm going like I could, not that I cannot still go, but I still need to give my body time to heal. And
right,
then when you have the emotional trauma, and it's still ongoing what we're going through in the world, it's
right,
hard to heal. And then you still got to still go on. I still had to go to California and make sure my son was settled. I still had to make
right,
sure my daughters, I still had to move, you know.
right,
So like, it's like I moved three people, I moved the
right,
three of us here, then I had to move him there, and then I had to
right,
move her, to New York.
right,
So
right.
it's still a lot, and just trying to deal with my own, severe asthma, and like saying like I gotta just, keep asking God just to remove this out of my body because I haven't been in this state with this asthma since I was 7 years old. That's like 50 years ago.
Right, right. But
And
you know
here it is
something,
on me.
something you just said kind of made me think about something. Like you said, you were in ICU. So ICU is intensive care unit, right? Is what ICU stands for.
Right.
But I think it's interesting because it's like I see you. And that's something I think right now many of us are missing, that are we seeing people? Are we seeing ourselves? Like, because a lot of us don't think we're in trauma. We think it's this situation that's going on and it's creating trauma, which it is. But as a result, we have suffered so much loss
Absolutely.
during this pandemic. And when I say loss, loss is anything that you thought was okay and now you don't have it. So
Hmm.
let's
Hmm.
start with peace of mind. Loss
Hmm.
of peace of mind,
It's true.
loss of the ability to move about freely as you had done prior to this pandemic, loss
Exactly.
of loss of the ability to walk outside and believe that you were safe,
Mhm.
from harm and danger and sickness,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
That
Exactly.
go,
Yes.
going outside was where you would go outside to do what? Get a breath of fresh air.
Fresh air.
And now going outside is like, shoot, I don't want to breathe your air. I don't want to breathe your air. I don't want to breathe in my air.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
and now, not only that, but the same way people are battling now for, I don't want to wear a mask. I don't want to wear a mask because you've already taken away my freedom of, being free to do what I want to do and roam where I want to go. And now you want to tell me I have to wear a mask. Again, we're not trying to get into a political argument
No, not at
about this
all.
thing. What I'm just saying is that we've lost the
We
entire
lost a lot of
world.
our privileges that we took for granted.
That's
Very,
perfect.
very,
That's
very
perfect.
minute privileges. I mean, you
Yes.
didn't think anything about going outside wearing a mask or running to the mall
Right.
and knowing before you walk through that door, you have to put your mask on.
Right.
You
You
know,
didn't.
because
Right.
otherwise you cannot come into this mall. You
Right.
have the ability that you whether wear a mask or not. But when you
Right.
go into certain establishments, they require a mask, which I
Right.
understand because these businesses have lost so
So
much
much.
money from shutting down, you know what I
Yes.
mean? And they can't
Yes.
function. Nobody, we as the world, we can't really afford to lose, anymore,
Right.
But then this is also a good time, I think, in the world that we need to start doing more bartering for different things because everybody has all these different abilities, So because this pandemic has affected the world,
Right.
how can we come together, and make this happen when it's not about money?
Right.
It should be, you know what I mean? Because if it affects the world and we all spend money in the world, and now the money is moving differently than it was moving before,
Right.
how can we still keep things moving and it not be about the money?
But so what you just said, so if we step aside from the money part, this pandemic, if for people who did not even give it thought, is that it forced us to, one, like I said, ICU. It forced you, because if you were, whatever it is that you do for a living, right? All of us have some attachment to people in our lives, whether you're married, not married, you're a child of you have parents, or you are a parent, or you're taking care of parents, whatever it is, right? Or you have children, you have pets, you have, some of that has been lost in our busyness, right? In our life of busyness, because I typically may not see you because I'm so busy with all of the things that I feel are important that I must accomplish each and every day, right? Or in this moment, in this time frame that I have, everybody is on I don't have time for that. I don't see you. I could ignore, you could be in trauma, in pain, falling apart. And I'm like, girl, you okay? Okay, well, I'll talk to you later about it. And, but this situation of trauma that we're in, we need to ask ourselves, each of us, what can I do for another individual? Like, what can I do to help somebody right now? And hear what I'm saying. I'm not talking about financially. What
Right.
can you do to make another human being's life a little bit happier, a little bit joyful, a little bit less stressed in this period in time in which we are in? In other words, what could you do to someone who's in ICU where you could let them know, I really do see you. Like, I'm paying attention to you and I'm willing to be there for you, because prior to this, we are all very selfish about our time.
Yeah.
We're all very selfish about our giving. We're all very selfish about, I mean, just because I know now. I will tell you, I'll tell you now, I have the heart of gold to give, but I don't have time for foolishness.
Nope, me either.
Now, I don't have patience for foolishness. I don't have patience for confrontation. I don't
Nope,
have,
not at all.
that's just not where, that's not just not where I live and where I move.
Nope,
But
never.
interestingly enough, in this period of time in which we are living right now, anything and everything can become confrontational.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Anything and everything can become confrontational. And because we are not seeing where the other person is, you know why? Because we don't live that way. Because I'm so busy focused on me, I don't have time to worry about what your trauma may be. Because right now I'm dealing with my own trauma, but really I'm not dealing with my trauma.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. If you were dealing with your trauma, you would be able to feel for other people.
Right.
Because that the reality is that you have to deal with your own trauma in order to help other people with their trauma.
Right.
If you're all messed up, you don't see, get out of my way. I don't have time for that, because you haven't dealt with all your own pain. And it's like even whatever type of relationship, you have to heal before you deal with other people.
Oh, I like that.
So
you gotta heal before you deal. Oh, that was good, Steph. I love that.
Yeah.
You gotta heal before you deal. That's good.
Yeah. And so it's like, and you cannot just keep running around here thinking that you're okay, because in reality, when you don't heal and you think you're helping other people, you're just hurting them.
Right. You're creating more trauma and
you're creating more trauma for that person.
And damage. You're being damaging to another human being.
Individual.
And what we don't understand about that is that's irresponsibility.
It's so irresponsible. Oh my God, it's so irresponsible.
That's irresponsibility. The same way how in relationships, and I don't care what relationship it is, because life is relational. Anytime,
yes, it is.
You don't live in this. You don't live in this world on an island by yourself. Even though you think that your life would be so great, living by yourself. But
no man is an island. No man is island. No man is island. We all need each other. And if we didn't know it,
wants to be on an island by itself. Right.
Exactly. We didn't know it before. We know it now more than ever.
Yes. More than
ever.
What I
mean? And it's like, people are like, oh no, it's no, because from the time you wake up in the morning, you get up in the morning, you see a mailman. That's a relationship. You see a guardian, that's a relationship. You pay the toll, that's a relationship. You go park your car. The guy, that's a relationship. All these are relationships. However minute the relationship may be, it's still a relationship. I go pick up my car. I got to give the guy a tip. He has to give me my keys. This is a relationship.
But it's funny. Like I said, it's all relational. But those are the people. Again, I'm going to go back to those people. The person who parked your car, went and got your car. The person who brought your water to you. We tend to overlook those people, which is why for me, I'm very cautious of when I go into a restaurant. If they come and say, my name is Jennifer. Hey, Jennifer, how are you today, Jennifer? Jennifer, you are amazing. Da, 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 da.
Now, exactly, me too. And I want to know your name. Not hey you. I want to know your name.
Right. I want to know your name. Last week I was at a conference in Destin, Florida. And every day I had breakfast at the Broken Egg. Now, there are several broken eggs in Atlanta. Have I ever been to one in Atlanta? No. You know why? Because it's not close enough for me to drive all the way to go to it. But
I want to go. I love the name.
The Broken Egg in Destin. Our waiter's name was Stacy. From the first day we walked in, Stacy was amazing. So we were there for 5 days that we ate breakfast. We went there every day. And when we first met Stacy, we were like, we're not going anyplace else. We will be here tomorrow. We will be here Wednesday. We'll be here Thursday. Now, what was amazing about Stacy, because they had an amazing menu. So I think on Monday, I chose what I wanted. And what I loved about this restaurant is that they would make substitutes for you without charging you, without saying we can't do that.
That's a blessing.
Now that's relational to me, because
exactly.
I want to eat this food, but I want to eat it the way I want to eat it.
Exactly.
it wasn't any problem.
And they didn't punish you for it.
Right. And she
overcharging.
every order she took, she never got wrong. But so on Monday, I had an omelet. And I remember that there was French toast on the menu. And I said, oh, I think I'm gonna try French toast on Wednesday, and I'm gonna try the shrimp and grits on Friday. When I walked in on Wednesday, Stacy says, good morning, how are you? She says, you're having hot water, lemon and honey? Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and you're having coffee and cream? Yep, absolutely. Okay, bet. She goes, so I remember there was a conversation about French toast on Wednesday. Are we having French toast today?
Wow, that was big. Yeah.
Stacy, you are my girl.
Stacy rocks.
Stacy rocks. Do you hear me? So here's a plug to Stacy. If you're ever in Destin and you're staying anywhere near the Sandestin Resort and Conference Center, go to the Broken Egg and ask for Stacy. But here's the thing. It wasn't just Stacy. That was the culture of the entire staff. Because by Wednesday, the lady who she was either the manager, owner, not sure, but she was like, I'm putting you on the clock. I'm punching y'all in because y'all need to work here because y'all been here every day this week. And they came over, they made jokes. They were like, oh, I served you on Monday when you first came. Oh yeah, I remember. Do you want hot served? When I say details, because what they did was made me understand and recognize that they saw me. And that is something that in this world, we are so dismissive of one another. We are. I'm guilty of it. I know I'm guilty of it. I try not to be, but I know there have been times that I'm guilty of being dismissive. Because whatever it was that this person or this situation, I decided I don't want to see it. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to do it. So I just want to say that is something that trauma starts when we are not seen, when we're not heard, when we're not believed, right? And that's something I think there are a few things that went on this week, that happened. And, of course, as human beings, we only go to what we see because we assume we know that this is the culprit because this is what we see. But whenever you see trauma in a person, or what if you are not able to identify what trauma is, when you see extreme reverse or behavior that's not characteristic of a person, and then all of a sudden it just like jumps out like a jack in the box and you're going, what is wrong with you? There is trauma behind that.
Of course, there's trauma behind it.
There's trauma behind it, and there's trauma in it, and there's trauma in front of it.
Oh, yes.
But many times we don't see that. And that's where we are dismissive of children. So I want people to understand that, because in our culture, we are very quick to say, you're grown behind, you're fast behind, you're this. Please understand that is not always a female, especially, just all of a sudden feeling herself.
No, somebody's messing with her.
Someone is or has and is continuing that has brought her to this point. Because when a child goes from child stage to all of a sudden maturity, you're like, wait, what happened? I want all of us to recognize you have to see people. You have to
see people. And the thing is too that it's like I said, you have to recognize it, but you have to want to do the work. Just like when you was talking about like the broken egg, a lot of that was they were great, but you're great too, because a lot of it has to do with our level what we bring, our level that we bring there. You know what I mean? Some people, we operate our energy levels. Some people, we operate at a very low level. And that's where you're in it. That's where, you don't bring anything good to you there. You bring with all that muck and mire that's down there, that's what you get. If you start operating at a higher level, you get all the good things at a higher level. And you get your energy, other people's energy will match your energy. And if it doesn't, they rise to the occasion or they fall off. That's the way that happens. But we have to understand that. And people really don't understand that, because I was born into trauma. From the day my mother conceived me, it was nothing but trauma. My mother told me that when she went to the hospital to give birth to me, and I was born at St. Francis Hospital in the Bronx, she said, "Oh, I went there and I turned around and I was sitting underneath the cross." And I was like, "Oh my God," because she knows she's having a baby from another man, but she's married to another man. And the man that she's having a baby for, he done took off, because he got a couple of babies already by another woman, which you knew before you lay down with him. But we have to really do the work on ourselves. But we have to want to recognize that. Like, I recognized at a very, very early age that it wasn't right. What was going on with me and how it was working with me, even though I went to live with my godparents, I could recognize that it wasn't right. Like, I could say that I love like bar height things and counter height tables. And I really honestly feel, because I spent my young life in a bar. The first word I knew how to spell was bar. I used to come home and tell my mother we went to BAR. And they used to put me at the bar and give me a Coke with a maraschino cherry. And I can tell you, I do not like Coke, and I cannot stand maraschino cherries.
Interesting.
And and I have that. I love, like, I'm looking for a table in my kitchen now. It has to be counter height. I love sitting high. And I do feel that's from that time, because I'm not lying. I spent a lot of time at the bar. And when my father would take me there, and we lived in the Bronx now, and sometimes he wouldn't take me, and I would sit in the car, me and the dog. I'm like 2 and 3 years old sitting in the car by myself in the Bronx with a dog. Okay. Because, he was an alcoholic. But I recognize that. And I tell my family laughs at me, but I can honestly tell you, because by the time I was 6 years old and we moved to Bergen County, I became a latchkey kid. So I would get home from school about 3 o'clock, but my parents didn't get home till like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So I spent all those hours alone.
Right.
So I had to learn. I knew how to cook. I knew how to take care of myself. I knew how not to answer the door. And then if somebody called, my mother's in the shower. They taught me very early on how to lie. Right. And so I had no choice. Like, then I would like to stay up. Sometimes I needed help with my homework. So I'm up late at night waiting for them to come home, and then I'm falling asleep. It was like, I knew that wasn't good. So in the afternoon, I used to watch the Brady Bunch, and I got a sense of what it should be like. That I did not identify, because I knew I was a Black. I had no problem. I wasn't trying to be anything other than Black. So it was just about the relationship. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's a TV show. Understand that, because I'm not that person. I was a lot smarter than that. And because I spent all my time about adults, I was very bright and very adult-like as a child. And I had a lot of responsibility at a very young age, because I've been an aunt since I'm like 3 years old. And I tell you, so my nieces are like 3 years and 4 and 5 years younger than me. And to this day, always, they never not call me Aunt Stephanie. They never feel like, oh, we're only 3 years apart. And they're grandmothers, some of them. Right. But they're like, oh, that is my Aunt Stephanie, because that's how I raised them. Because I used to just have to take care of them alone by myself.
Right.
So I learned a lot, but at the same time, I continued to work on myself. And when the trauma got to be too much for me, especially when I turned 9 and tried to kill myself, I knew I needed to do better by myself and learn all these things that was going on around me, because we just tend to think that adults got it all together. And they don't, because if you never heal from your own trauma, you just, and not to mention, you don't heal from your own trauma, but you tend to think because I'm an adult, I know everything. That's not how
And
that
you
works.
right, age, and look, age does not mean wisdom.
No, it doesn't. It
And
doesn't.
for some people, and please note, knowledge and wisdom are two different
Two
things,
different things. Exactly.
right? Knowledge and wisdom are two different things, right? And so, because wisdom is more the
Experiences.
application of experience, that you, those
Exactly.
are things you've learned, these things from the experience.
That's right. You on the front
knowledge
lines.
knowledge is when you know, when you, sometimes
Read a
knowledge is
book.
more read a book, or you went to school for something, or you trained
Mhm.
in something. But those two things go hand in hand, because you
Yes, they
must
do.
learn how to take the wisdom and
Hmm.
apply it, which
Hmm.
then turns into knowledge, right?
Right.
But
And the
I what
common
I
sense.
and common sense. And look, and that's the other thing, because you could have a whole lot of book knowledge, you can have a whole lot of wisdom, but if you don't have no common sense,
No
baby,
common
nobody
sense.
can help you. Nobody's
They
gonna help
can.
you. They can't help you. They cannot help you. And so, you know, it's, you know, we're both saying the same thing, is that you have to deal with your trauma.
You do.
And so
You
many of
do.
us are walking around in life not dealing with our trauma. And I want, you know, I
I look
venture
at
to
my mother.
say,
My mother's gonna be 80 years old, and she still lives in all of her trauma. And now she reflects it onto all of her children. You know, the 8 of us, and it's really, really sad. And my prayer for her is that before you leave this earth, you will learn to deal with your trauma, so you could be happy. You know, before you leave this earth.
well, at least be
You
at
know,
peace, even if you don't find
exactly.
happiness,
But you
because
know what?
peace,
I think
again,
peace is happiness to me. Like, you know,
peace
if you
and, yeah, because peace and happiness are two different things, right? Because they're both emotion, but peace is, to me, it's a state, you know,
yeah, right, right.
and
Oh, and the
and
happiness, like in
happiness,
relation.
right, and happiness can
I
be,
got you.
one moment you could be really, really happy, and the next moment you could be
Mm-hmm,
really, really sad. But
mm-hmm.
if you have peace, you learn to find the peace in it wherever you are, you
Well,
know.
if you're at peace, you learn to find the happiness.
Well, that too.
Yeah,
See,
yeah. So that, yeah,
so
because
those things go
being at peace
together.
is so much more important to me. Yeah,
Yes,
but
being
yes,
at peace is more important than happiness, because happiness
exactly.
can be a temporary thing, and can change based on the people who
The
you
blink of an
think
eye.
you're getting, right, the people you're getting happiness from, or the things that, because most times we associate happiness with people or things or
Mhm,
events, right?
mhm,
Whereas
mhm.
your peace is something that's always and should be with you always, and it's what helps you get through those moments of non-happiness or moments of trauma. But it's important that we understand, like right now, the world is in trauma, hence
Mhm,
why we're seeing so many more crazy things happening
it's
during
true.
this moment,
Mhm.
because isolation will force one to face your own
Demons.
demons. That's the only way I
It's
can
true.
put it.
Yeah, yeah. I hate to bring that
Isolation
word into it, but it's true.
isolation forces
Right.
you to deal with your own demons, right?
How you say they
It
come? They chase you all around
chase you. Look. Bobby Womack said, and the skeletons come out the closet and chase you all around the room.
all
Y'all know
around.
that's our favorite saying, because it's true.
Yeah,
The
it's true.
things,
It's
you
true.
know, I think one of the best depiction of demons coming to get you was in the movie Ghost. If you
Ghost.
remember the movie
I'm thinking
Ghost,
the same thing. Oh my God, I think the same thing.
and
Oh, well,
that,
we up here on that plane together.
see, that's why I tell you, this is why we are sisters, because we can remember these things, and but we don't remember them for the movie. We remember them for
The
the
emotion.
impact and the emotion
Exactly.
that it brings upon for us. And if you
Because we don't
never
have
saw
memory
the
really. But yeah,
right,
exactly. It's the
and
emotion, right? Uh-huh.
if you've never seen the movie Ghost, there is a point in the movie where the demons come to get this man who literally killed the
The
Patrick
lead
Swayze
character, Patrick Swayze, yes.
character in the movie Ghost. And of course, this person was walking around, and he was the one who had killed him, thinking that he had gotten away with something. But it
Exactly.
was pretty much when his day of reckoning, his day of redemption came, it was like these black shadows, and they like came and got him
Yeah.
and grabbed him, and he was screaming. And here's the thing, there was no blood, there was no gore, there was no head cut off, there was no knives, there was no guns. But the whole idea that this man's spirit was being dragged and snatched away from him. I vowed when I saw that movie that I would never, ever, ever again in life tell somebody to go to hell.
I know that's right, because that was a scary thing. That was
a scary thing for me.
Scary thing. That was our Tony Goldwyn from Scandal. He played the president in Scandal.
Yes.
He is the heir to what is the movie studio. Mayor Goldwyn was MGM.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, his great grandfather is MGM.
Okay,
Goldwyn.
got you. Well, and so so I want people to always understand. Sometimes that's what we have to look at ourselves as, stepping outside of ourselves. And we've said this many times before. Trauma may not show up on the outside of you, and most times it doesn't, because it's like having, how can I describe it? You ever get a bruise, right? Mm-hmm. The bruise hurts, the spot hurts, but you don't see anything. You don't see the bruise. But now give it a few hours, give it a day, that mug gonna swell up. It's gonna turn black and blue. And it's going
that's like because I get cystic acne. That's when you get the cystic acne. You can't see it, but it hurts. It's like, oh my, can it come up? Can it come up?
It hurts. And here you are, you're like, but I don't see it, but it hurts.
Exactly. But you know it's there.
and you know it's there. But you know why? Because trauma, like bumps and like pain, is at the nerve. It's at the base. It's at your nerve ending. Trauma is that same thing. It's at the nerve ending, which is why sometimes the trauma doesn't come out, or you don't react to something the way people would have expected you to, until, what do people say? I must have hit a nerve. That's true.
Exactly. That's true.
You did.
That's true.
You hit a nerve on something that I have been bottling up. I had locked up. I threw away the key to it. I sat on that suitcase and made that thing close. And I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't want to see it anymore. I'm not unpacking it. I'm not doing it. But it's luggage.
It is luggage, and you carry it with you, honey.
And you carry it everywhere you go.
What's the name? Say the bag lady. Honey, carrying all them bags.
Right. It's going what? Hurt. You gonna hurt your back.
Your back. That's right.
It is.
But you know, I think that, but people, like, for me, and it's never like, not necessarily like say that it's good, but for me, like, to be taken from my siblings, you know, at such a young age. And then I felt at one time when I was put in Bergen County, I was like put out to pasture by myself, because everybody else stayed in the same place. I mean, like, my mother was able to go there every day, but here I am by myself. And yeah, exactly, you know, because her salon was there, so she went to work in the city. I'm just here. I mean, I enjoyed going to school now, but I went to school in Harlem. I went to private school there, but I learned at an early age to really enjoy my own company. And to like, I feel good. I enjoy myself being alone. Sometimes even more than I enjoy being with people. I'm not gonna lie.
Right.
You know, and but I knew that it was important, and I raised my children like that, because when you don't know how to be alone by yourself and deal with all those things, you tend to get into a lot of other things. You end up getting into a lot of relationships and marriages and all these things that don't mean well for you out of loneliness.
Right.
But when you learn to be
you need that person, or at least you've convinced yourself that you need that person.
Exactly, because you're lonely. But when you learn to be your own best friend and enjoy that time and that peace, you know, it is healthy for you. Because then again, I go back to my biological mother. She's, you know, now she's freaking out living alone because she's never lived alone. She doesn't want to live alone. Like, you know, and I told her, this is your opportunity. You know, you got 8 kids, you got 20-something grandchildren, you know, this is your time. And she has a hard time handling that. But I can honestly tell you, both my children, they enjoy. They used to tell me when they were little kids, like, oh, we're relaxing, mom. They'd be like, 4 or 5 years old, talking about we relaxing. They knew how to relax and be and chill and have their own space, go in their rooms and just be. And it's something that is necessary. But because people, especially this day and time, people are so stimulated by everything, even our children, because now you have like overstimulated in so many
Overstimulated.
different ways. And it's they don't know, like, so when they can't even think about, like, let me just pick up a book,
Or let me
and
just sit down and be still.
be still, like, nothing. They just want to be like, so that's why people are having all of these issues now, because certain things that used to keep you stimulated, you can interact with,
yes,
exactly, you cannot do anymore.
Nope.
The people that, okay, I'm gonna go to the gym. Now you couldn't go to the gym.
Right.
The gym was closed. Whether you went to the gym so I can look at how spectacular your body look, or are you really, because people, like, when you see somebody there every day for 8 hours, or they go, like, some people go back and forth, like, this issue there. I mean, I know you want to be in good shape, but there's more to it than that. So it's like a lot of things that people had to learn to get, and having a hard time doing it. And it's like, it's sad. And that's where a lot of the feelings that people are so upset are coming from, all of the loneliness. People are reaching, even now, people are reaching for people they shouldn't even think about reaching from. Look at all the babies that are coming now. I see so many.
Or reaching back to people.
Or reaching, right, exactly.
And so y'all, that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, you can't go back.
I need to find this. There was this thing that I found that was talking about going back to people. And I was like, when I read it, I was laughing so hard, and I was like, wow, this makes so much sense. And I want to find it. I want to see if I still have it. But it was something about, I think I said this a couple of weeks ago. It's something about here it is. If you love someone, set them free. If they come back, it means nobody else liked them. Set them free again.
It's true, though. It's true. It's so true. Let me tell you, my mentor always says, he's like, when a man leaves you, let him go. Because when he comes back, that's he didn't find anybody better than you. But if he didn't know that you were that person the first time, you need to leave him alone. Because if he knew you was his wife, he would have never left you in the first place.
Oh my God.
But think about it. We see all these romantic movies, and a lot of them all have that same setup when you really think about it.
Yes.
And it's like, because they broke up, then they got back together. But what my mentor said is really, really true. If they would have found somebody better than you, they would have never came back.
Well, but that now I laugh about that, and I agree, but I also disagree to the point of sometimes both people or one person is not in the same place. Now we've seen that happen.
Different. Somebody needs to grow. That's different.
Somebody needs to grow.
I can see that.
So from that perspective, I believe that. But if we're not in the same place, but we're not in the same place because one of us or both of us are dealing with unresolved trauma in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
When that person walks out, or if you walk out, keep walking.
It's true.
Keep walking. Because until you deal with your trauma and you are able to handle it and face it, and until that person deals with their trauma and they're able to handle it and deal with it, it's never going to work. Because what happens is we think that when we meet someone, and somewhere in our crazy minds, but it's what we've been
discombobulated mind.
Yeah, this discombobulated mind and this crazy life I'm living. And that when I meet you and we start to share what little of our trauma we're going to share, so we're sharing, and you're like, yeah, my mother left me too. Yeah. And my dad used to do that same thing. And we're like, man, we got so much in common. You need to be like, you know what? We have so much in common. I'm going to keep you as a brother. I'm going to keep you as a sister. Maybe we can help each other work through our trauma. This
Exactly.
is not a good reason to
This
start a
relationship.
relationship.
Yeah, that's not the basis to our relationship on now. Not at all.
Because, but is it not what we do though? I mean, think back on it to some of the people you dated, some of the people that you liked, and then after you spent time with them, or maybe after they spent time with you, because we're not exempt, that they spent time with you and they realize you really need to work on some stuff, right? Or you realize after being with them, I really need to work on some stuff. But we get so elated to the fact that we have so much in common. Having stuff in common when it's detrimental and it's trauma and it's unresolved trauma, that's not a good idea. That's like saying I went to like, if I had to go to, someone sent me to anger management, right? And then I meet someone else in anger management. I'm like,
Exactly.
oh my God, me and you have so much in common. I think we should get into a relationship. What do you think is going to happen in that relationship?
Yeah, that's not gonna work. That's
It's
not
going to
gonna
be
work at
hell
all.
on high water every
Yes, yes, yes.
opportunity.
But that's just like you didn't watch Sex and the City, but it was one episode where the lead character went to she was going to therapy because she would just her this relationship she would be so obsessive in these relationships, and it was these different things that was happening to her. And Bon Jovi was the guest star on the show that week, and
Uh-huh.
she met him at therapy, and she would always pick that's what she went. She would always pick relationships with the wrong man. And so one day she went, and she really didn't want to go, but her girlfriends forced her to go. And one day she went there, she saw Bon Jovi, and she was like, "Oh, so he was leaving when she was coming." So next time she got there really early and she dressed up, and so he would notice her. And because the therapist said, "Oh, you look mighty dressed up today," so she's like, "Oh, today was laundry day," like that. So then eventually, of course, they meet and they start hanging out, and so of course, eventually they end up in bed, and it just ends up being like a mistake. She was like, "So why do you see Doctor So and So?" He said, "Because once I have sex with a woman, I don't like her no more." And she said, "Why?" He said, "Oh yeah." She said, "I was going because I always pick the wrong men."
Bam.
That was into that because there you go. You meet somebody in the office, okay,
Right.
and
So
you
the
start a
question, so the
relationship with them.
conversation should have started, what are you here for? But
Exactly,
we don't
exactly.
ever ask that question. We don't ever ask that question because we lead with
I
what
do.
we see. We lead with what we see, or we lead with what the emotion tells us, and that's a human. Those are human traits. But
But what I do, I
what would
give the
it be
script.
like? What would it be like in life if we met people, and not like, you don't have to go in, but you say like I prime example. One of my best friends always says to people, "What's your crazy?" And I remember when she first asked me that question, I was like, "What?" I was like, you know, okay. But as the years went on, I clearly understood what she meant by that. Because many people would say, I don't have a crazy. There's nothing about me that is crazy. Until you start to dig into yourself and you start to do that self examination, that autopsy of your
Mhm.
life, of your relationships, of things that have happened to you, or the things that you keep avoiding as to why you think you shouldn't do it. Once you start to do that, you do identify your crazies.
Oh yeah,
And I
I know my
clearly
crazy. I know
understood.
my crazy,
I know
and it's
my
like
crazy.
because I get the same thing from most people that I date. You know what I mean? It's like you expect too much of me, but I
Mm-mm.
expect a lot of myself. I need you. If you say you're going to be there at 6 o'clock, I need you to be at 6 o'clock, or you need to be calling me and telling me why you're not there. So I need you to be consistent.
Right.
And that's very important to me. And that does have a lot to do with my trauma. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Because I was abandoned and all these kind of things. So I need to know that you're going to show up. But
Right.
don't tell me, my crazy is don't tell me you're going to show up and you're not going to show up. Because then it's that other side you're definitely going to see. I
Right.
have big
Right.
problems with that. I'm not a person to be like, oh, that's okay. No, it's not okay.
Right.
And you do need to be a person of your word. You
Right.
know, my thing is because I am very open about, my trauma, that I always want to be with somebody who seems like like you were raised by your parents. That's something like I love that. What I mean? To me, somebody who's raised by their parents, it's like their parents wanted them. Whereas I feel opposite of that. And but in the end, when the whole picture comes out, you know, even though their parents wanted them or whatever, it's still a situation.
Right.
But
They
you
have
didn't share
trauma
that.
too.
Right.
They
Yeah, but
have
you didn't
trauma.
share that with me. Right,
Right.
exactly. But now it's only you. But it's like, but then not to mention that now you have that trauma. Now that we've been together X amount of years or we're married or whatever, now that I discovered that trauma, I know my trauma. I continue to always work on my trauma because
Right.
it comes at you in many different ways. Okay.
Right.
You have never even acknowledged your trauma or even
Right.
tried to work on it. Now,
Right.
oh, you're cool, you believe all those things. You guys go see the therapist. Yeah, but
Right.
I'm working on myself.
Right. And you
And
need to
and never
start
need to,
working on you.
and
Right.
don't, you know what I mean? And
Right.
don't. And then I would get these messages like, oh yeah, you're right. I should have been working on myself, whatever, after the fact. I don't
Right.
think there's not anybody that I haven't dated that didn't try to like knock back on my door again because they see,
Right.
there's like a guy that we like dated like when I was a teenager in the Bronx. And I know, I've been off of social media, since being in ICU. I still haven't really gotten back there yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I happened to look on some, he had like sent me a message like maybe like 9 weeks ago. And he said, you'll always hold a special place in our heart. And it's funny because I mean, we were young, it was nothing, sexual or anything like that. But I never forget why I broke up with him is he said he was going to drop out of high school. I'm like, well, I don't date dummies. So that's not going to work, like that. But you look at this, and he was like a couple of years older than me. These
Right.
many years later, he's like, you're still so special to me, married, big into the church and everything like that. And I didn't know what to say to that, to be honest with you. I just sent a heart because I didn't like that. Only because, not even, I don't know, you have a wife, you have a family, don't do that. I don't like that, Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
maybe.
it's something he could kept to
Well,
himself.
maybe we'll give him the benefit of the doubt that it was not that, because I have friends who say that to me, and it's funny because, like you said, he's big into the church. I remember two of my really good friends who, when I was younger, and would say to them, "You shouldn't do that," right? Even though I did crazy stuff too, but I was always the one too going, "You shouldn't do that. Like that's not good, and you should go to church," right? And two of my friends would always be like one was the worst. He's like, Iris, nobody got time for church. Who wants to go to church? And now he's a minister. He doesn't just go to church. He's a whole minister, right? And the other one is a deacon. And so it's interesting that when we talk to each other now, how it has become more of a, man, I always will love you, not because in a sexual way. I will always love you and have a place in my heart for you because you know from whence I came, just like they know from whence I came. And now look that we are here now, right? And who would have ever thought that we would be here in these places in our lives where for some of us, we completely rebuked doing some of the things that we do now, how we live our lives, how we see things in life. So giving him the benefit of the doubt that it wasn't meant in a, it was more of the thing, like you said, I don't hang out with dummies. That could have made an impact. That could have made an impact in his life to say,
oh yeah, I'm sure it did. But I think that
first,
with like, with him, it's like, because he said like, oh, I thought you were going to call me. We were going to get together for coffee. Like certain things I don't
okay, well,
like, you know what I mean? And like I have another a friend. Well, I used to date this guy. He's a minister now. He has a big church in Virginia, and he found me on Facebook maybe like a year or so ago, and he's like, "I need you to call me." Why do I need to call you? And then had like a little toot about the fact that I did not call you, and then started posting all these pictures of him and his wife, like. That's what you should be doing. I have another friend of mine that he's a bishop, and we have talked, and it's a whole different type of energy. You know what I mean? He's a nice guy. He doesn't, you know what I mean? And when we have spoken, he ordered a bracelet from me, because I sell the men's jewelry and stuff like that. So you do know like the different type of energy, like whereas the minister was trying to be a little slick. The guy that's into the church, he's just like trying to like, oh, I think like you want me to give that same energy back to you, and I'm not giving that to you.
Yeah.
Whereas where the bishop is just like you love, you know what I'm saying? And we had been friends for a long, long time, and he's a really nice guy. So it's not, so you can see the difference,
Okay.
But like, yeah, but you know what I'm saying? But yeah.
I was, but like I said, just trying to say,
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. But we know how that goes.
Everybody deals with their appreciation differently, and of course, we do get unwanted appreciation that we're like, yeah, I'm good. I don't want that.
Yeah. I mean, really, because like I do feel like you even if you, and then some people are like the same. They really just haven't even worked on themselves, which is even so much more funnier, And I'm like the type of person like I'm when I'm like I'm so over with you. Like another friend of mine, I was trying to think. I couldn't even remember his last name because I wanted to. He has a moving business, and I was trying to get my client to use him because he has a really good business. She's moving down to Florida. And for the life of me, I couldn't remember. You met him. I couldn't remember his last name to save my life. And finally, finally, I remembered his last name. And I'm like, that's a shame. But I am that person. I told you like that little thing that I always remember from The View with Barbara Walters. And she said she was standing in her doorway one day, and this man walked by and said, "Hi, Barbara." And she said, "Hi." But she said to like, like, who is that? And then she said after watching, "Oh, that's my ex-husband."
Yeah.
I'm that person.
Barbara and I have that in common because now I will tell you, I have the ability, which is good and bad. I do have the ability to cut. When I say cut it, cut it.
Yeah, you do. You do.
And listen, I'm not saying that's a great thing, but to a degree, it has saved my life in many places. It has saved.
Well, I can't remember what you look like.
It has saved. It has saved my peace. It has saved my sanity. It has saved me probably from going to jail. Mm-hmm. Because we have all been in situations, some trauma occurred in our life that was the result of someone else and someone that we trusted deeply. Mm-hmm. And then this person does something to you, and for you, what did Juice Jones say? I want to run up on you and flat blast you with your hush puppy wearing. That's me. I'm that girl. I'm coming for you. I want to let you know how much I did not appreciate what you have done. So it's better for me than to be able to just cut it off and to delete it, like on a computer, delete, like clean out clean that thing out, because otherwise it's going to become a virus in my system.
Yep. Well, because some people do like to I think that, have a which way relationships, and the best things like, I'm doing well. I don't need to see you. I don't need to be in your space. You don't need to be in my space.
Right.
Because when people do that, I personally don't understand that. I don't need to see those people ever again. Like I told you, like 5 years ago, probably even shorter than that, my ex-husband's trying to find me on Facebook. Tell me I'm looking for my ex-wife. Yeah, I filed for divorce after 7 weeks of marriage. That goes to show me that you are still cool. You know what I'm saying?
For those of you who don't know, that was the little marriage.
That was a little marriage. Yes, that's a little marriage. So, that just goes to show me, like, oh, I'm looking for my wife. Let me tell you, I did not entertain.
First of all, I'm not your wife. I am not your wife.
Hello. I'm not your wife. And like, I was like, that's like really like crazy, Even the guy that I was engaged to, like the big love of my life, I don't know what, when he finally got himself, I don't know what, but he started looking for me because I'm friends with his brother on Facebook, and he's like, want to be friends. I'm like, no, dude, we're not going to be friends. And it's funny because the other day I started thinking about him because he died. Oh, and I'm like, and I felt a ways when he died, you know what I mean? I mean, we were engaged. We were together for like 3 years. He was a big like love in my life. Matter of fact, that was why I got married. It was like a what do you call that thing um when you marry somebody or get together with somebody, but you're still really in love with somebody else? It's a word
Oh,
for that.
he was the I don't want to use that word. He was the fall oh God.
Well, you know
He
what
was
I'm
like
talking about,
the
like
get over guy or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. He
Yeah,
was like
yeah,
the
yeah.
cleanup man. Like, the
Yeah,
cleanup
yeah,
woman. He was
yeah.
like the cleanup man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
can't even
that's
think of
why
I can't even think of what I know what we're
it's
talking
a
about, but I
word
can't
for
think
that.
of the
It's a
word
word.
for it.
What's a clean word for it? I just can't remember the word. But
Yeah, because
anyway,
that's
so
why I said I didn't want to use the other word because that was
exactly. But it's a clean word for it too. But so that's why that was never going to work, because
right,
I was definitely still in love. It took me years to get over him,
right,
because I didn't really, I knew how to heal with childhood trauma, but your tools of your heart, because that was like my big love, for a long time. And so, but when his friend called me and said, he had a massive heart attack and died, and he said, I knew no one told you, and I felt that you probably needed to know. This was what, 2 years ago. I mean,
yeah,
mind you, I hadn't seen this man since I was like 21.
yeah.
So it was interesting, but do I have any regrets that I never
No,
spoke to him after that? Even I don't.
no,
you know your life
nope.
has gone on. You end up like the woman that you left me for, that's who you end up marrying, having children with, and divorced and don't really have a good relationship with his children. So he had all those issues, because like the way people think they could just end things and break people's heart, and you think that your life is going to go well, it doesn't work like that.
Or the people who don't end things, the people who
Oh,
go
oh
the
yeah, that
people,
doesn't work
and
either.
so always be mindful of that. A person who is a ghoster means that they have their own trauma.
Of
And
course. And remind you though, with the
so
women too, you cannot build your love with a man on another woman's tears. That's not going to work either.
or vice versa. Yes, ma'am.
Or vice versa. It's
That's
never
very
going to
true.
work. It's not going
That's
to work,
very
because
true.
it's so true, because you leave that person in pain, that you go on that.
Right.
It may look good when it may look good initially, or maybe looking good on the outside, it's really going to fall
Right.
apart on you. Hmm.
I'm going to challenge all of us who, all of those of you who are tuning in. Don't be a trauma maker, right? If people say don't be a
But sometimes we
troublemaker,
make exactly, because we
don't
do
be a
make our own
trauma.
trauma sometimes.
Yeah, don't be a trauma maker. In life, we have enough trauma that we have no control over. Things happen to
So
us
true.
on a regular daily basis in our lives that we have no control over. But if you can minimize, like even if it means the relationship isn't working, but be caring enough to let a person know I see you, and to be able to say to a person, for whatever the reason, I
Hmm.
I don't want to do this anymore. Don't
Hmm.
just don't just leave a person or mistreat a person
Or pick up another person.
oh pick,
That's what
I was trying to be nice, but
that,
that is
that's trauma,
the
man.
ultimate betrayal, right? Before you go, pack a new bag, you know, get that bag empty first. Get
What's that old saying? You can't ride one horse with two. Well, how's that saying? You can't ride two horses with one eye. And you can't.
oh,
You can only ride one horse, and you
this is
have to.
true.
I mean, the thing is that I think just people in general, to break up with, for some reason, people have the hardest time in the world to break up with someone, and it's like, because you feel that person loves you so much, you're gonna hurt them, but and
But if
the
you love that
reality is
person, you would be truthful with that person.
exactly, and that you're gonna hurt them more by getting somebody else on the side, or what
Right.
people do, like my mentor saying, like the guys, they're just gonna treat you mean, start arguments to push you away, so you could eventually break up with them, you know. And so those are some techniques. But what about the technique of being honest? Because if you're not feeling the relationship, 9 times out of 10, they're not feeling the relationship either. But
Right.
they're thinking, oh, the person that still wants a relationship is saying, well, maybe they're just going through something. Let me just give them
Right.
some time,
Right.
But then if you like say to them, like, you know, it's not good for me, you and I, it's just not working for me, and I want to let you go so you can have the person that's for you. Because there is somebody, it's more than one somebody for everybody, but there is somebody for you, and I'm not that person. but
But
we need to become
you got to
grown
learn how
enough
to
to say
have
that.
relationship checkups though.
Of
Like
course,
just like you got to
absolutely.
have relationship checkups, because as we started with this conversation about, the things we take for granted, and we take our relationships for granted, and
Oh,
that's all
absolutely.
across the board. That's our
Yes,
children, our
yes.
spouses,
Yep,
our
yep,
parents,
that's right.
our work. We take things for granted because we just take it that it's going to be there. So I don't need to nurture you the way I did in the beginning, or I don't need to court you the way I did in the beginning, because now we're here, right? But every now and then you need to have a relationship checkup and go to the people in your lives that you are relational with and say, hey, is there anything that is bothering you, or anything that you think we could work on? Or is there something that you think we're missing? And a lot of times you'll be surprised at what you find out if you're honest.
If that's what I was gonna say, if you're
If you're
honest.
honest, right? But because people don't, relationships go to hell in a handbasket, because it's almost like once we get together, people don't want to conversate about what could be wrong. Or I see something coming, because what we do is we shut that other person down automatically. Like if I say, hey, can we not do this tonight, but we do this thing? Now we've been together 20 years and we've been doing the same thing for 20 years. And then on this 21 and a half year, I'm like, what can we do? Where you get that from? Who you talking to? Why you?
Oh Lord, yes.
I just went to have Chinese food tonight instead of pork chops.
Yeah, because people don't like change, honey, change. They don't like. But I used to do that with my kids. Like, it's still like to this day, and they're like, and it's challenging with young adults, because they're adults, but they're still not really adults,
Yes.
and they want to be.
Talked about that.
Right. So
you
they're
want
trying
them to
find
make decisions,
themselves.
but you really can't make decisions. And
Exactly. But I used to ask them, like, especially like I said that, like every month, I would say, okay, so what do you think I could have done better as a mother this month? Like, what do you guys feel? And and they would like, my son would like I never forget one time they said, "Oh, you were a yeller this month. You yelled a lot." And I said, "Really?" I said, they said, every time we didn't do something, you yell. Okay. And I forgot what I was trying to tell them to do. They're like maybe 14 and 16, something of that nature. And I came in, whatever it was, they still didn't do. I said, "Oh, I was a yeller this month, but it's still not done, right? So you have to take responsibility what I'm telling you to do, so you need to get it done, right?" And then we never had that conversation again,
right.
Because that was one of the things that, even from being like small, not to be a yeller. Like my kids was very sensitive about those things.
Right.
When they came home, the teacher was a yeller. We didn't like the teacher. They go through this whole thing.
So were my kids. But you know what the flip side of that is? If we did that, right? If we were honest with the people in our lives, regardless of their children, or if we did that and we really took heed to it, it also gives us the opportunity to do the self-evaluation, to start the work. What we say, do the work. You got to do your own work. So it would give us each an opportunity to say, okay, I heard what you said. And instead of getting mad about it, or getting an attitude about it, is to then go back and evaluate and say, okay, I did yell a lot this month. So why was I yelling this month?
Exactly. And that's what I did.
And why was I so bothered that I felt the need that I had to yell everything this month, right? So, and with your kids, depending on their age, you don't have to go back to your kids every time you've done something and be like, okay, so mommy apologizes because
Exactly. Right.
because then
Yeah.
because now you're giving up your
Right. Exactly. Your
throne,
strength. You know what I mean? Where you
you
stand
know,
on. Exactly.
all
Exactly.
those things come at a certain time in life. As they grow, we
Mhm.
grow, but there,
Mhm.
you still got to keep your headship, right?
Mhm.
But wouldn't it be interesting that if we did that with our significant others, with our good friends, with our parents, and said, hey, this thing happened and I really don't understand why it's happening, or
Mhm.
it keeps happening. And then everybody gets the opportunity to honestly share. And if everybody would listen with open heart and open ears, and then go back and then look at their part, and then come back again and say, okay, how could we do that differently? But that's typically how it doesn't
Well, I think that if you
it just
have like,
keeps getting mashed down, which creates this one thing that was something that was hurtful, and then that thing just continues to, like
get
we said,
bigger.
the bruise you can't see,
It gets bigger.
it is there, but it's
Yes.
underneath but it's underneath the skin, and right, and
Mhm.
so it's like
But
having
if
a
you have good if you have good communication, like you and I, we have really great communication.
right,
So, we have like when you want to share something, you feel like, this is why I feel. You just come. I don't think we dance around each other like that.
no, we don't,
And
we don't,
and a lot of my, I really don't dance around. Like, so I don't get. Even with my ex-husband, I really didn't dance around. He danced, but I didn't dance. You know what I mean? But then you're gonna
right,
blow up because now you're not gonna say I'm asking you, because I guess you maybe can't think of a tactful way to say it, because there are 100 different ways to say something.
right,
So you're just gonna say when you get fed up, like nasty, because I should have made you. You sound like something like for 10 years ago you should have made. Well, really? Because you had all
right,
the opportunity in the world. Even when I would ask you, like, let's go to therapy. We should do this so we can communicate better. I
right,
was a big Dr. Oz, because Dr. Oz said this. I was all like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I really want you to be happy. If you don't want to be with me, just let me know and we could work. And I would say it like that. No, I just gotta get myself together. Always be those kind of things until it just finally like blew up. And it was like, oh, and I think that it was like, oh, we're just gonna push this under the rug. And I'm like, oh no, this is gonna sit on top of the rug,
right,
because this is over. How long it takes to actually officially be over, that's a whole nother story. But
right,
this is over,
right,
because you can't keep asking somebody to work on it and they don't want to work on it.
right, correct,
You have to want to work on it. And then some people, they're just going to be like that. They're not going to be able to ever express themselves. And some people could take that in a relationship. I cannot take that in a relationship. And unfortunately, a lot of men don't know how to express themselves. And that's because they were always told to shut up and be quiet. Big men don't cry, don't show your emotion. And then they don't know how to show emotion, which is not really good. And even with my son, as
mm-hmm.
he started to get older, and he would say, oh, like he would be trying to explain something. I said, I don't understand what you're trying to say. Oh, forget it. No, we're not going to forget it,
Right,
because you need to know how to express yourself. You're getting older now. You're going to have relationships. Don't ever do that. And I would never let him shut up and be quiet. Don't show
right,
emotion, because
right,
we send men down a dangerous path when we do that. Because then once they get a wife and get into a relationship, they no longer know how to show emotion or
right,
know how to communicate their emotions. And that's important. And that's where the fallout is. So they're feeling something, and if you're communicating like I am, but they can't express what they're feeling. And
right,
sometimes you get to take this back from before y'all got married. And you be wondering, like, well, if you felt that way, then why we get married? You know, because you couldn't communicate that. And that's what, no, because this is a two-way kind of thing.
right.
And so I've seen so many of those things, being a relationship coach. And it's really, really sad, because some of these things could be solved by just a conversation.
Right. Hence
And it
why
wouldn't
people
even
should
gotten to
do
that far.
hence why people should do marriage counseling. I know
Oh, absolutely.
a lot of people think that, they're like, I don't need that. We love each other. This is,
Love has nothing to do with it.
love has nothing. What you say? It has nothing to do with
You know how
it
many people that love each other
we,
that are divorced?
no, listen, we love our children. That don't mean they don't get on our nerves.
No, get on our nerves. Like
Right.
my big thing with I used to be like, I come home Friday and I'm tired, I come home late. And I come home different times, but average I get home like 10:30. When you have dishes in my sink, and I always tell you when I'm coming home and there's dishes in my sink, we got a
We
problem.
got a problem.
So we have a problem. So I would just tell my son, because my daughter's at college, I'll come home and he's lounging on the couch with watching his movie. Oh, you disturbing me. You know, I was watching my movie. Honey, we be clicking that movie off because I told you about those dishes in my sink. But then I'm a yeller, right?
Right.
Because you know the deal. I give you ample opportunity. Oh, mommy's getting ready to come home. Now, sometimes, because like in my other house, I could pull up and see the light on in my kitchen. And I say, yeah. I said, oh, he in there washing them dishes. Now, if you washing them, I ain't saying nothing. But if you laying on that couch, there's dishes in my sink.
Right.
We got a problem.
But you know, I tell people all the time, if you are of our age, you know, and if you went to the movies to see Crooklyn,
I remember Crooklyn.
When that scene came out, when Alfred Woodard went in that room and she said, she was like, get up. You must have done lost your whole damn mind. You left them dishes in my sink. The whole theater was like, what? That was every one of our mamas. That was every one of our mamas. If your mama didn't do that to you in your life, you need to go back and have a conversation with her. Because that was everyone. I used to make jokes with my kids. I was like, I will be the Crooklyn mama. And they would be like, what is the Crooklyn mama? Go watch the movie.
Go watch Crooklyn. Go watch Crooklyn. Yeah. Because but it's like you have to like,
some things there has to be a stop. There has to be you can't cross this line, right? You know, and there has to be, okay, we got to stop and we got to have a conversation. And for so many of us in our lives, we are never given the opportunity to share our trauma. Mm-hmm. But I also realized, and I was having this conversation with my mom the other day about, as adults, you cannot keep blaming other people, even though those are the people who may have created or put you in the situations. But after a certain age in your life, you are responsible to go deal with your own damn
absolutely trauma. Absolutely.
You can't keep blaming your parents for what they didn't do, what your ex didn't do, what your brothers and sisters didn't do, what the job did to you.
That's right.
To a point,
what the man didn't do, what the man.
Right. Because the thing that I think we forget, who is the common denominator in every situation in your life?
You. That's right. That's right.
You.
That's right.
So you do, you know, that's one thing I know a lot of people don't love. You know, you either love or you hate Iyanla Vanzant. But when she says you got to do the work, that is what she's talking about.
You got to
go deal with your own stuff, and you cannot.
Yes, you do.
Blaming other people for the stuff. Yes, they play a major factor, but at some point you have to learn, where's my peace? What needs to happen for me to keep it and how to get it. And once I get it, not to give it away, right?
That's right. For nobody.
Where do I need to find grace and forgiveness? One, for whomever helped in the trauma part, but also where I created trauma in my own life. I got to find grace and mercy for my own self and forgiveness. Right?
Exactly.
And trust me, if you start with yourself with grace, right, for yourself, then seeking for the mercy that we all need, only reason we even exist is because of grace and mercy.
And mercy. It's
right?
true.
And forgiveness, when you do that, you will find yourself able to move out of those places that you just didn't even think you could, but you can. But you gotta learn how to release it. You can't deal. It's like you can't throw away garbage if you don't see it as garbage.
Which is that? Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Which is so true.
If you don't see it as garbage, you'll just it'll be an empty cup, but you keep putting it on the table and you keep leaving it on the table. right?
Mm-hmm.
But okay, and but it's like bad food. The reason why you refrigerate food is to make sure that the food stays fresh. But
Exactly.
even after a certain amount of time in the refrigeration, the
It's good.
food goes bad.
It does. You're right
Message,
about that.
message. You're welcome. You're welcome for that message that you just give. Keep that in mind. You got to learn how to throw away, call garbage what it is and throw away the garbage. Get rid of the
Exactly.
garbage, deal with the trauma, deal with the hurt, deal with the disappointment, deal with the anger, deal with the sadness. You got to
Yep.
do it. Because if you don't, you're always going to live in a state of trauma.
You are. And recognize who you are too. Like I know that one of the things that I tend to overlook meeting people, if you're nice, because I always like a nice guy. I
Oh,
tell you that the nice guy gets me, and then, but then like I never forget how Maya Angelou says, watch when a man starts picking at you. He said, because if you keep messing with that man, you'll be bald headed. And it'd be those little things. Like I never
yes.
forget, I dated this guy, oh, why do you have to drive that kind of car? You should get this kind of car.
Right.
Oh, why do you have to eat at that kind of restaurant? You
Mm-hmm.
know, McDonald's is not good enough for you. You know what I
No,
mean? And
it's not.
why do you have to buy those expensive boots and all this kind of things? And I don't like. I'm like but no. And this they're like no. That's because they're telling you what their level is, and not like that you're better or whatever. That they don't like. They don't like a certain type of car, a nice car. They don't like to eat at nice restaurants. They don't like, nice boots. You know what I mean? They whatever. They don't understand why you got to go get your hair done once a week, or why you'll get your nails and toes done. And that to me, that's part of a person wants to just they're trying to really bring you down to whatever level that they are. And then you're like fighting for where you are. So that's never gonna work, you know. And then in the end, oh, you're like a stuck up, B to them. And it gets to be, a whole nother thing. Oh, you think you're this. Well, I know I'm God's daughter. That's who I know I am. And these are the things I desire in my life and it has nothing to do with you. These are the things that I had in my life before I met you. This is who I was before I met you, so what's the problem?
But you see,
Because
just
people
now when you
say,
were saying that here, where you stopped and you said, not that I'm better than you, but why do we stop there? Because it's not even a thing of better. It is
no,
just, this is my standard for me. And
exactly.
that's your standard for
Right.
you. And our standards
Are
don't
different.
level. They're very different.
Exactly.
Now, if we come
Exactly.
together and I understand your standard and you understand my standard, and we're able to compromise on those standards and say, I'm okay where you are, you're okay where I am, but we help each other grow and get better. So maybe we never become equal, but my standard moves, your standard moves, your standard moves, so it's not even a thing of equalness, but it should never be that I have to be less than in order for you to feel better.
Exactly.
That's just if you are engaging in those type relationships, and that's again, remember, everything is relational. So even if you're at a job and you're doing your job, but you know more than what they're giving you credit for, and you're constantly have to dumbing it down because somebody says, well, that's not your title, so you can't say that. You need a new job.
Absolutely.
If you're in a relationship that you have to dumb down, you have to play down who you are, what you are, and your abilities and that's not, I'm not talking about being boastful. I'm not talking about being arrogant. I'm talking about you as who you are, your destiny, who you are. And when somebody is constantly saying, when you said, I would really like to do such and such and such, like you said with the car, and the person goes, that's dumb. Why would you ever want to do that? You need to find new friends.
Exactly.
You need to find a
And
new
they constantly put
circle.
you.
Because you know what? Your friends and your circle, your family, your loved ones, the people in your lives, when you come up with something, now they can definitely say, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. But at the same time, they can say, let me tell you why it's dumb though. And they help you work through to get to how this thing comes to fruition. Because
Exactly.
we always need truth. So
Exactly.
if the idea comes across as dumb, then it's dumb. I'm fine. I can handle that. But now help me figure out how it's applicable and it's not dumb. But when you just shoot down everything I do without reason or without even the ability to give me an alternative, you and I don't have anything in common.
Well, you see those little things, just like, prime example, our podcast. So I said, I was telling everybody starting a podcast. So a girlfriend of mine, she's in media. So she said, "Oh, maybe I'll check out your little podcast."
Yeah, little.
So exactly. So that let me know where you're coming from. My other girlfriend, I wasn't saying, because I know we're busy. Because the one thing I do know about being an entrepreneur, your family and your close friends really don't support you. It's the people who don't know you really support you.
Right.
So I already know that,
Right.
But my one friend said, "Oh, I just don't have time, and everybody and their mother have a podcast these days." So, like, yeah, I hear you, I get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was just, asked me what I was doing. I was just telling you,
Right.
And so, but I am that person that is like, because you tell me what I want to know, or what type of relationship we have by the things that you say to me.
Right.
And some of those things, they couldn't be like, we say you communicate with a person, but some of those things have already been communicated, you
Correct.
know. So you're
Right.
not like, "Oh, why are you gonna say little?" Like, it's especially when it's like fresh. You know what I'm saying? It just comes off the dome. It's there.
Right.
So that is how you feel. And that's okay, because I don't have to convince you that, "Oh, you shouldn't call my podcast little." That's irrelevant.
Because I don't need your approval.
Exactly. I do not need your approval. So just like I was telling you, like my cousin, like, "Oh," and like, well, I was talking about, I knew what you were saying, but nobody else know what I was saying. Not to make me feel bad about what I was saying.
Right.
Like, no, I have a voice and I'm going to use my voice. If you don't like it, don't listen. That's all I can tell you.
Right.
So people will try to put you, that's what it is, trying to put you in your place.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who are you to put me in my place?
Right.
God created me, and He's the only person who could put me in my place.
Right.
That
is
But
correct.
if you listen really well, something, and then you kind of know what type of relationship is. Is that relationship worth having a conversation? Because all relationships aren't worth that.
Right. They're not.
And yeah, so you have to pick and choose the ones that are very important to you. Like, like certain days, I'm not going home and living with you. I have to sleep with you. That doesn't have to be. That's not my issue with you. I don't live with you. And there's some things that you have to tackle. Because of how you feel about that person, whatever the level of the relationship is, or whatever that may
Right.
be.
Right. Because we all go through I haven't heard from so and so in so long, or I call this person all the time and they don't call me back. And then I started realizing, am I missing anything by not talking to that person? The last time I spoke to you or I saw you, what was it? What was it like? Was it memorable? Was it great? Was it wonderful? Or was it kind of like, why did I do that?
Mm-hmm.
And so just like you release things in your life, you got to learn how to release people too.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, again, what do we say? We're all in, and especially right now, we're all in the intensive care unit.
Yes, we are.
World, the entire
Yes, we are.
universe is in an intensive care unit. And
you're right about that.
Instead of being in the intensive care unit, take that ICU and tell somebody that you see them.
Mm-hmm.
And reach out
That's
to them.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And be patient with them, be gracious with them. But first, start with yourself. Learn how to be gracious.
Exactly. It's true. Because if you take care of yourself, you'll be able to take care of other people. But when people have all that hatred, it's because they don't even love themselves.
Right.
Nobody ever learned. A lot of people never learned how to love themselves. Exactly. They were so beaten by their family and by their parents, unfortunately. I bring you here and then I dog you at the same time, which is horrible.
Yes. Yes. Well,
I see that. I was gonna say this real quick. I know. Well, when you're like when you're 20 and the kids are like 16, 15, they're like, seems so much big difference. What it is at that point.
Yes.
And I knew this little girl. She used to date one of my neighbors. They were like the same age. And then, but she was, I would say, like a little more advanced than he was, even though they were the same age. And then she started dating somebody that was like a year or so younger than me. And her and this boy, they had a baby. And I think the baby, maybe I did see him when he was a baby, really pretty little baby. And she was Spanish, and the gentleman, he was Black. Anyway, years later, I saw her in the store shopping with her mother, and the little boy was there. He has to be about maybe 6 or 7. Oh my God, her mother and her treated that little boy so nasty. They would tell him to shut up. And I'm like, why? Is because like he was very heavy for his age, and very nice looking boy, but he was dark like his father. But these people, it was a family of these people, and they looked like they was carved out of chocolate. Talking about beautiful, just beautiful. The girls and the boys, there's a lot of them too. And he looked like them, but with curly hair. And I often, like, how something comes to your mind. And I often think of, and he has to be like probably 27 or 30 at this point. And I often, what happened to that little boy? How did his life end up being after them treating him so harshly? And sometimes I don't even remember the little boy's name. It is like you said, it's good you pray and use people's name. I just like say a prayer for him. I don't know what his name was, but God knows who I'm talking about. And, you think about, when you think about some things that you have crossed through your life, because it was, as long as we're here and us to be in our 50s, we're gonna see more and more of that. So it'd be like things that you saw when you were 25, like what was the resolution of that situation? Did they ever get that together? And it's like, because you're not in touch with these people, or you're not living in the same place anymore. But it's certain things that you just don't forget. They just resonate with you.
Yes, they do. Right. That's very true. So again, like I said, let people know that you see them,
Exactly.
And even if you don't see that person again, someone like that person or with that situation will come into your life again. And like I said, take the opportunity to let people know that you see them, that you hear them. And that's not saying you're going to be the sounding board for everyone that you meet in life, because you can't be.
No.
But just like I said, just remember to be gracious to people, to be kind to people, because again, none of us know what the next person is going through, even when we talk about it. Because I'm still gonna keep a little bit of that trauma to myself, because I'm not sure how you gonna handle all of my stuff. Right?
That's true.
So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind.
But not only that, which I've learned too, like I know even for me, like somebody said, like, so what happened? Like, why did you get a divorce? I could like hit the bullet points maybe, but I can honestly say that I couldn't really pinpoint it. It's like some things happen to you that you don't even really understand. Are able to make, give a definition to. And I can honestly say that some situations you can't even give a definition to yourself. You can only express how maybe it made you feel, because you're only speaking one-sided. You can't speak for the other person. And so it's sometimes it's hard to put things into words. Sometimes expressing your feelings comes out better, but I can never just like, well, this happened and that happened, and it's still not really even myself, sometimes I say that, like, I know that happened, but how did it all really come together?
How did it all play out?
Yeah. I don't know. I just know that. And if you could get to that point, that's helpful. But I guess I'm saying all that sometimes that you may not really just know all the ins and outs yourself. And that's okay, because sometimes people don't want to recognize it because they don't know what to recognize, but recognize the feeling, and that helps.
Start there. That is correct.
Exactly.
Well, I hope that you all have garnered something from today. So, because trauma is a part of life. It truly is.
Yeah,
but you don't have to make it your life.
Mm-hmm.
You heard what I said? Trauma is a part of life, but you don't have to make it your life. Like you don't have to live there. You don't have to,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't have to be your permanent address. So it's
And that
important.
doesn't kill you, only makes you stronger.
Yes, 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 and no, but yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't release it, that's
Oh,
where the death happens.
oh
And
yeah, of course.
or if you don't deal with it, that's where
Mm-hmm.
death starts to suck the life out of your you know, your
Mm-hmm.
strength.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to say thank you all so much for joining us today. Again, we hope that we shared some nuggets with you all today. Again, you know, both Steph and I, we're both life coaches. You can find me on I Do Love Coaching on Instagram. You can email me at I Do Love Coaching at Gmail. You can find me on Facebook as well. And you know, just reach out. And of course, you can always reach out to me or Steph on our podcast, The Autopsy of Her, Healing, Evolving, Resiliency. And you can reach Steph at
Deani Designs at mymentor.life. You can reach me there. And I'm a life coach, style coach, and relationship coach.
Awesome. So again, we want to thank you all so much. We hope that you all have a pleasant rest of the week. Stay safe, stay blessed, and we thank you all so much. Love you, honey bunny.
Have a great weekend. Love you. Love you too, honey bunny.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.